The Samsung Galaxy Note 9 is now official. So it's been announced by Samsung yesterday, and this phone comes with so many features. Honestly, the Note 9 is the Swiss Army knife of smartphones. And I'll get to that in a second, but there are a few things that you should know before buying the Note 9, and here's not 5, not 10, but actually 12 plus things you need to know before getting a Samsung Galaxy Note 9. So sit back, relax, get some snacks, and let's have a look. Okay, so number 1, we have Fortnight. Yes, Samsung has made a deal with Epic Games, and Fortnite is now available on Android, but only on Samsung phones as of right now. So you can still play it on the S9 Plus, the S8, or the Note 8, or even the S7 Edge, by the way. But by buying a Galaxy Note 9, you get an exclusive Galaxy skin for Fortnite. This is the one that you get. If you pre-order, you also get 15,000 V-Bucks, so you can get skins in the game. Now, to claim this, you have to go to, you have to first get your Note 9, and then you have to download the app called Shop Samsung, which should already be pre-installed on your Note 9. If you don't have it, then just download it, and then you can claim the Fortnite reward from there. But now, if you're not a fan of Fortnite, you can actually claim a pair of wireless AKG headphones as well. Those are pretty cool. So they come with an active noise cancellation. They cost about $300, so they're not cheap. And in my opinion, those are worth way more than a skin in a video game. So that's what I'll be going with. But let me know in the comments which one would you pick. You can actually choose both options if you wish, but then you'll have to pay $100. So you can get both, pay $100, or you can just pick one, and that's free. Now, something quite unique about this phone is that you can get up to 1 terabyte of storage, which is insane. Now, yeah, I know, this sounds insane. Essentially, the Note 9 comes in 2 capacities, so you get 128 gigabytes, that's the baseline, which is also insane for a baseline option, and then 512 is the second option. Fun fact, this is actually twice the capacity, double the capacity of each iPhone 10 model, so that one comes in 64 and 256, you get us in 128 and 512. And with both models, you can also add an extra micro SD card for an extra 512 gigabytes of storage. So if you go with a 512 gigabyte model, you'll end up with 1 terabyte of storage, which is absolutely insane in a smartphone. But what most people don't realize is that the external storage is going to be significantly slower than the internal one. So if you store any apps on the SD card, they would take considerably longer to load. And also 4K 60 videos, they won't save on the SD card if you don't have one that's fast enough. So then what's the actual point of having an SD card anyway? Well, it's mostly for photos. So if you take photos or even videos, videos would be, by the way, transferred to the SD card after they're recorded on the internal storage, so they would be eventually automatically moved to the external card. But yeah, today everything is getting focused on cloud storage anyways. If you use Google Photos, for example, you can automatically delete every photo that's been backed up to the cloud, and now you also get unlimited cloud storage anyways. So honestly, there's no real point in having 1 terabyte of storage. So just go with a 128 gigabyte model, and then if you use Google Photos, you won't even use 128 gigabytes anyways, unless you have tons of locally stored photos and music, which most people won't anyways. And speaking of models, the 128 gigabyte still comes with 6 gigabytes of RAM, but if you go ahead and pick up the 512 gigabytes model, that one actually comes with 8 gigabytes of RAM. So Samsung phones have always been known to have a fairly sluggish UI, thanks to so many bloatware apps and processes running in the background, for example, Bixby. But the S9 Plus, by the way, was actually very fluid. It wasn't perfect, but it was a big improvement from the S8 Plus, and that was because it came with 6 gigabytes of RAM versus 4 gigabytes of RAM on the S8 Plus. So will the 8 gigabytes of RAM Note 9 be a noticeable difference from the 6 gigabytes variant? I would say so. I will definitely be doing in-depth testing with both, so definitely subscribe and notifications if you want to see that video first. Now, something quite interesting about the Note 9 is that it comes with a carbon fiber cooling system, so this sounds extremely cool, and it is, but realistically, it's just a piece of metal that helps spread out the heat from the CPU, and that's basically it. We've actually seen this before on some other high-end smartphones, so this isn't the first. By the way, the S9 already had this before. The difference is that this heat pipe in the Note 9 is made from carbon instead of copper, and according to some teardowns, it even has a tiny bit of water inside. But yeah, overall, this would basically help keep the Note 9 performing better when it comes to gaming, or when you're running some intensive apps, which, let's be honest, no one edits videos on their smartphone, so gaming would be probably the most demanding thing you'll ever do. Next up, did you know that the Note 9 has thinner top and bottom bezels, reason why we get the slightly larger display now, so 6.4 versus 6.3 inches on the Note 8. However, the side bezels are actually thicker now. This is quite interesting. I'm guessing that the reason Samsung has done this was to avoid so many accidental touches. With the S7 Edge, it was a nightmare. They made the edges smoother with the S8, and they reduced those even further with the S9, and now with the Note 9, they even smoothened those out a bit. So we might, who knows, we might lose the curved display altogether with the S10 or the S11 the year after. Now, there's a few things that I want to mention when it comes to the camera. So did you guys know that it's actually the exact same module as on the S9 Plus, which was released a few months ago with that dual aperture camera? However, it comes with a few new software features. So for example, it can automatically detect the subject if it's a plant, for example, or food or scenery. And this is pretty much like Apple does it on the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10. And it can adjust the saturation, white balance, and so on in accordance to that. So basically AI on the camera. But again, this is a software feature. Samsung could have easily included this with the S9 Plus because they have the exact same specs and the exact same camera module. This is something that I really dislike about Samsung, how they restrict new features to newly released products, even when they have the exact same specs as older ones. Now, in case you're curious about the Note 9's camera, you can check out my in-depth S9 Plus camera comparison, and the Note 9 would be quite similar to that. Now, of course, I'll be doing in-depth comparisons of the Note 9 as well when it gets released, so definitely subscribe and notifications if you haven't done that, and if you're new to the channel and you want to see that day one. But one of the main features that this phone has over the S9 Plus is actually the S Pen. So every single Note phone has had an S Pen. This is basically the key selling feature, and this year the S Pen gets Bluetooth. So before it was basically just a stylus that was based on Samsung's AirView tech, and it was used in the S4 basically. AirView, that was one of the main features of the S4 if you remember that, but it only worked from about 1 centimeter max distance away from the phone, whereas now, since it supports Bluetooth, you can do quite a lot of things with this at a much greater distance. So you can use it as a presentation pointer, you can use it as a camera controller, and more. You can actually map this to many apps, so that's pretty cool. Now, the fact that it comes with Bluetooth also means that you have to charge it now. So it charges by being placed in the Note 9. Obviously, you don't have to, plug it into the bottom side of the phone. Like the Apple Pencil, 40 seconds gives you 30 minutes of power, which is awesome. Speaking of the Apple Pencil, fun fact, with a much larger battery, the Apple Pencil gives you 30 minutes of battery from just 30 seconds of charge, which is cool. But that one uses the Lightning, reason why it's so fast. So it's a much more powerful connection, basically. Let me know in the comments if you prefer having a pencil such as the S Pen on a smartphone, or would you prefer having a pencil on a larger device such as a tablet. I personally do like it. I think it's a great idea on even a smartphone. Now, my only complaint when it comes to the S Pen is that to use it at its full potential, you have to use it in Samsung apps alone. Google Apps, they don't support it, and most people use Google Apps anyways. So for example, I use Google Keep to take my notes. I use Google Docs as well, and the S Pen isn't supported with those apps. So the S Pen is only useful if you use first-party Samsung apps, such as Samsung Notes, for example. Now, here's something pretty cool about the Note 9. The Note 9 comes with a massive 4,000 mAh battery, which is actually the biggest one Samsung has ever had in a Note phone. The Note 8, by the way, came with a 3,300 mAh battery, so this is 700 mAh higher. So the Note 8 actually had some pretty good battery life even before with that 3,300 mAh battery. So this one should be considerably better. Brings back memories when the Note was that massive Swiss Army knife phone with insane battery life as well and a massive screen, which hasn't been the case, at least when it comes to the battery, for quite a few years now. And then remember Samsung DeX? So essentially the dock where you would place the S8 into, and then you could attach a keyboard, a mouse, and a monitor, and you could basically transform your S8 or your S9 into a desktop PC, kinda. Well, now you can do that without the dock. So this was introduced with the Tab S4, which I covered in this video, by the way. And you just connect it to the monitor via a separate cable, and then you get a Bluetooth keyboard and a Bluetooth mouse. And that's basically it. There's no need for you to buy that dock. So that's quite cool. It's much cheaper than before. By the way, this is still Android, just with Samsung's DeX UI on top of it. And at the moment, you're limited to mostly Samsung apps and also Microsoft Office. But basically, the amount of apps you can use with this thing is quite limited. So if all you do is web browsing and you need a large display when you get at home, well, this is actually a very useful thing to have. But if you plan on doing actual work and using, Photoshop and stuff like that with the DeX, well, you can't really do that because it's still Android, just with Samsung's DeX UI on top of it. Now, something that I don't know why when it comes to the mobile industry, well, actually I do, but I don't think this should happen, is that when Apple does something, even if it's a bad move, everyone copies Apple. So Apple added a notch, and now everyone else has a notch as well, except for Samsung. So I do appreciate Samsung for sticking to their own Infinity design. However, when Apple started selling the iPhone 10 at $1,000, and by the way, way more than this outside the US, Samsung has now started doing the same with the Galaxy Note 9, which now starts at $1,000 or 900 pounds, same price as the iPhone 10 in the US and cheaper than the iPhone 10 outside the US. So yeah, in the end, here's the thing. If you compare this thing, the Note 9, to the iPhone 10, for the same US price, you get double the storage, and you get so many more features than the iPhone 10. And same applies to when you compare the Note 9 to every other Android smartphone out there. The Note 9 is basically the Swiss Army knife of smartphones. The only exception to this rule is actually Samsung's own S9 Plus, which is basically a Note 9 without the S Pen and also cheaper. You get better camera software, which again could have easily been added to the S9 as well. You get more storage, you get a slightly larger display, but other than that, it's just an S9 Plus with an S Pen. You even get the exact same specs, Snapdragon 845 processor, Exynos 9810 with 6GB of RAM on the baseline option. So honestly, I would suggest picking up an S9 Plus, especially since it's actually cheaper now, especially after the Note 9 will be released. So I don't know, I just wish that Samsung would have launched a Note 9 alongside the S9 Plus, because as of right now, the 4-month-old S9 Plus is already no longer Samsung's best smartphone, so it's being already replaced by something that's already better. But yeah, let me know in the comments what do you guys think about the Note 9. Do you think it's worth it or not, especially when you compare it to the S9 Plus? And would you actually use the S Pen or not? Let me know in the comments what do you guys think about this. Also, join the Zone. ZONEofTECH now supports memberships, so you can press that join button. There's also the first link in the description, so just hit that. And now you can become a member, so you get exclusive perks such as a live stream from me every single month, and you also get some emojis and basically badges that you can use in the chat below. So that's pretty cool. They actually evolve over time. But yeah, you're also supporting the channel by doing that. So yeah, it's pretty cool supporting the channel, and you're getting some exclusive perks as well. Also, subscribe if you're new to the channel and enable notifications so that you get notified as soon as a new video comes out. But yeah, this has been pretty much it. Thank you all for watching until the end. I'm Daniel, and I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on the Note 9, which should be very, very soon. So thank you for watching. I'm Daniel, and I'll see you guys in my next one. ZONEofTECH, signing out. Cheers.